you something, brother.
Who are these people?
Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
Don't be rude.
Who are these people?
Good evening, everybody. And excuse the motorcycle noise. There's not much I can do. People outside revving their motorcycle.
You got a rally outside. Broom, broom.
Yeah, just as long as no music, we'll deal with it. But my name is Angel Rivera. We're the host of Pro Wrestling Talk. I'm thinking it's Angel in the Afternoon. Sorry. Okay. My name is Angel. I'm the host. My co-host Steph on the right. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Was actually looking forward to this, and I'm like, I don't know. Are we doing it tonight? I was kind of like getting worried, a little worried there. What
happened to the audience was I didn't send the link until like half an hour before the showtime. I usually send it a few hours before showtime. I completely forgot because, as usual, I was kind of busy today. So I knew that we were going to do a show. I didn't forget about the show. I just forgot to send you the link because I've been all over the place. And
no worries, I had to pick on you a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just explaining what happened on why I didn't. What happened earlier today. So yeah,
well, let's talk about wrestling. What's happened in wrestling today?
So unfortunately last week we did the AEW Double or Nothing review, as everybody knows who watched, and we forgot to mention one MJF's return at the pay-per-view. Is I went through the entire card on Wikipedia, which was 15 matches. 15, not 7 or 5 or 8, 15, like it was WrestleMania. I mean, holy crap. Not even WrestleMania.
Maybe
this
WrestleMania,
year,
20, 30 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, but not even today. Both nights combined probably had like 14 or 15 matches. But
I didn't think of that. I forgot there's a second night.
Yeah, there's 2 nights.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what combined. They probably have 14, 15 matches. But for a card to have 14, 15 matches on pay-per-view today in today's climate is insane because people don't have the attention span. The matches are awful. The pay-per-view went 4.5 hours. I'm glad I didn't order it or try to watch it because I probably would have gone to sleep. But yeah, I digress. Is this the Chris Jericho's fan club?
No.
No bad cookies. I mean,
screw
especially
that dude.
with Steph.
I do not like that dude. He can't sing, he can't wrestle, he can't do anything.
Thank you for joining
me because he knows I like Kurt Hennig because Kurt Hennig was the greatest wrestler to ever live. And don't you forget it, bad cookies.
I know. Yeah, I mean, we forgot to mention MJF's return at the pay-per-view last Sunday, and we'll just mention it briefly here before we go on to next week's WWE shows. But yeah, he came back. He beat up Adam Cole, which anybody can beat up Adam Cole because he's so tiny. And he beat up Adam Cole to give him his finish, whatever, because he had to get his revenge for what happened in December when the Undisputed Kingdom formed and wasted everybody's time because it did nothing with that.
Yeah. So,
yeah, had to get his revenge for that. He got it. Oh, by the way, he came out cosplaying as Triple H from 2002 when he came back from his torn, what was it? Quad.
Yeah, and he showed us a dumb tattoo that he got always been on AEW to what?
Yeah.
Go under?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to do there or what he's trying to say, other than that AEW he's a mark for AEW, and he pretty much, that's being nice.
So this is what it looked like.
No offense, Triple H looks better.
Yeah,
and I don't even like Triple H.
Quoting from MJF, the jean jacket was over what I feel is my leather jacket, but the jean jacket was certainly homage to a return that meant something to me when I was a kid in Madison Square Garden. I'm sure people can connect the dots. Yeah, obviously. Look at you. You look just like Hunter did 20 years ago.
Except for the long blonde hair.
Yeah. That was way back in 2002.
And the body, because Triple H, no offense to Triple H, but Triple H was much bigger.
Yeah. He's Hunter in his prime was 6'4", 6'5", 260, 270. No MJF reached anywhere near that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and yeah, Triple H was on vitamins. We all know that. But even off the vitamins, he was bigger than MJF. So it's like, and MJF looked like he was on vitamins too a little bit. When you actually look at him with his shirt off, it was like, oh wow. I mean, he got a little bigger, but he didn't. There's nothing like Triple H. But yeah, that tattoo, bet on myself or bet on yourself, or said AEW's logo, whatever that tattoo was he showed. He did the exact opposite of betting on himself, because as we all know, betting on yourself would have been going to WWE and starting from scratch, or not
and
really
going to
scratch,
NXT and actually learning how to wrestle. It's called learning how to wrestle, boys. Not
MJF
this gymnastic stuff that you Circus du Soleil. It's not the Circus du Soleil stuff you're so used to jumping through tables in AEW.
MJF is probably one of the better workers in AEW, but that's not saying much, especially since what he's done lately in his career. But
what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, he's bet on, it says bet on himself, but he took the easy route and took Tony's money. And again, I don't judge him for that. I mean, I'm sure he got paid. He got paid really well, but ultimately, I don't want to hear, "Oh, I bet on myself." Like, no, you didn't. You took the easy route and took the money.
Yeah, you're getting paid by a billionaire. Well, whoop-de-doo-dah.
Yeah, you took the money to who his first feud is, because this was revealed on Wednesday night. His first feud is against Rush.
Rush.
Roosh, really? The Mexican wrestler.
Roosh.
Because he cut a promo right before MJF came out. I didn't understand a word he said. He said it in the thickest Mexican accent of all time. And then he all I understood was MJF, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, so I'm guessing Roosh is his first feud back. I don't know why. I assumed he'd be in a more important feud than that.
Like,
he would be on top. He would be defending AEW from the Elite.
Okay, so are we talking like he'd be elevated to like Swerve?
No,
not necessarily. Champion. I mean, he needs to have better people. So I mean, MJF. Sorry, MJF. I'm so sorry. Sorry, MJF. Like he could be boosted to that level because they've been giving Swerves crumbs. Little crumbs.
Yeah. What I meant was MJF, being like AEW, like defending it from the Elite who's trying to take over AEW, like being that top babyface, trying to save AEW from the Elite, like the rip-off NWO angle they're doing. So that's what I meant, that he should be in that angle. Instead, he's stuck wrestling and feuding with Roosh for no reason. It's like, if you're not going to give him the world title, at least,
that's why I'm saying, like, maybe he should have done something with Swerve and give him a little, instead of giving him crumbs, give him a piece of the pie,
Greetings. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, I mean, what the story MJF, that was just a waste of time, because he came back, blah blah blah. It's like, what happened to the MJF from 2 years ago, where he was like coming out of your screen, you had to see what he would do, what he say next. He's just another member of the roster, and I'm happy he got his money and he got the contract he wanted, but he's not the same wrestler that that I thought he would be, or he would become. I guess
Go ahead.
He seems content with his role in AEW.
Yes and no. I say he's more intense. When I saw the pictures of his tattoo and him, and I did see the promo on X, he looks more intense, like he's more focused. That's kind of the word I wanted to say. But again, I just think they're throwing him crumbs, they're just throwing him, just like Swerve, they're throwing Swerve crumbs, and they're more focused on the Elites. Whereas MJF seems more like he's more focused, more determined. Maybe he's got that look in his eyes. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean he's a good promo. It's just that I don't know. He comes across as more like he's just another guy on the roster. He's not.
Yeah, and
not
that's
anything special.
That's Tony Khan. That's the essence of Tony Khan. Is he's just another guy on the roster.
He's just another one of Tony's very expensive toys. That's how he comes across now.
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't come across as a superstar like he did before.
A superstar, that's what you
and
are.
Triple H, talking about Triple H of 2002. I mean, I was 2002.
We were both
I
15.
I was 15, 16 years old. And he came back January of 2002. And I remember this because he came back on Raw. That Saturday, there was a live event in Trenton, New Jersey, where I live at. I lived there to
Triple
this day,
H?
but yeah, he was there. He worked the match that Saturday night. It was
Well, I know.
him.
Go ahead.
It was him and Kane teaming together against two heels, and I forget who they are right now. But there were two heels in the main event, and it's a tag match. And
Yes.
the crowd went nuts for Triple H, and I was like, oh wow, he's obviously a babyface. I mean, coming back. I mean, he's a heel for years before that.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd be a babyface, but he was.
Well,
Like,
and that's
holy crap.
because, see, the only thing I remember is Mr. Perfect coming back at 2002.
It was
Or
around
in
that
2002.
time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was at the Royal
Yeah.
Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
you're right.
was in the Royal Rumble.
He came back at the Rumble. Triple H came back at the beginning of the month, so that's but
From an
yeah,
injury, right?
He tore his quad.
He hurt his quad. Yeah, he tore his quad.
Hunter tore his quad the first time. He would tear it a few more times, probably. I remember, but that was the first one, and he came back at that live event, and he got the biggest pop I ever seen it live. I was like, whoa.
That's right, because he said in an interview afterwards that he went to the backstage and started bawling.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
He got a big pop in the show here, and I'm like, and then I'm sitting in the second row, and yeah, I see Hunter like
you were
he looks
there. Oh
yeah,
man,
I was
you
there.
suck.
That's what I'm telling you. I was in person that Saturday night before he came back on Raw, and I was in the second row, and Hunter came up, and he looked great. He looked and then he had his like water thing, like he's gonna do the spit the water thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then it was all, and my mom was there too. She loved Hunter. She loved Hunter, and she's like, oh, thank. It's like, when she got his water on his face, like it was orgasmic. I was like, oh, come on, man.
Oh my gosh.
I got all wet and stuff, like it went over the first like 4 rows or something. I mean, that was the same match that Chris Jericho premiered. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, come on. I gotta get you like, really?
That was my story from 2002 when Hunter came back, and I saw MJF like that. I was like, come on. It's so painfully obvious he's copying Triple H's return in 2002 on Raw that night, on that Monday night. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like he should have dressed. I'm not saying he should have. Just dress the way he usually dressed. You don't need to cosplay as other wrestlers from 20 years ago.
I mean, especially when, those wrestlers were actually more over. Not that MJF, I did it again. I'm so sorry. MJF. Not that he's not over, but he's not as over as Triple H was in 2002.
No.
Or even Mr. Perfect when he came back in 2002. I mean, he was really over. Everybody knew who he was. Even the Attitude guys knew who he was. So, I mean, he was very, very over in 2002. And that's something MJF is hoping for, wishing for, or going for going forwards, because you're not exactly over. First of all, you were gone from an injury. Did anybody pop for him at all?
To be fair, he got a good pop. He got
a decent pop then.
From that audience, from the AEW audience. I mean, it wasn't...
But it still leaves a lot to be desired when you're talking about the Triple H cosplay or the Triple H return in 2002. That was a major, major pop. And like I said, he admitted that he went backstage after that and just cried his eyes out because he was very happy. Yeah, he's an emotional guy. If you've ever seen him behind the scenes, Paul Levesque is actually a very, very emotional guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a student of wrestling. He loves wrestling. Yes, did he have issues in those days of not putting people over and burying him with his golden shovel? Sure. I mean, a lot of top guys do.
Well, not only that, but he also paid heavily for the curtain call because they couldn't go after Shawn Michaels. God forbid they go after Shawn Michaels, who actually probably was the idea person of that.
Hall and Nash were leaving, so
Yeah,
they
and Hall
couldn't
and
punish
Nash were
them.
leaving, so he couldn't get
It
them.
fell on Hunter. Yeah,
And Sean had the belt. Well, why does that make a difference? Hunter wasn't,
Vince
anything spectacular.
Hunter was the blue blood. He was the
Yeah,
cursey
he was
guy.
still Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Cornette was saying, I told everybody that Hunter Hearst Helmsley was never going to draw a dime, and I was right. But when he changed his name to Triple H and started calling himself the Game, actually the crowd started calling him the Game because of an interview that he did where he told JR, he's like, I am the effing Game. I am that. So, and then the crowd started calling him the Game, and so he called himself the King of Kings. I don't know what that was all about.
That was probably like saying like, no, I'm the real King of Kings, not Jesus. Like blaspheming against God if you're a Christian. So that's
I don't know
was.
about all that. I was just like, okay.
The King of Kings is in reference to Jesus. Obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only other time I've ever heard it, and I was like, well, even Jesus wasn't the King of Kings. Of course, I'm not Christian, but
yeah, I know.
Triple H is doo at that point.
At that point, his ego is out of control. By 2008, 9, 10, 11, he was like main eventing WrestleManias in 2015 against Roman Reigns. Like he main evented a WrestleMania. Huh? All Elite Satire.
Yeah, I looked at that name like, interesting.
I didn't even notice that because I saw Bad Cookies. I bet listening to Fozzy makes him ecstatic.
Who? Who, MJF? I did it again. MJF, not G.
All Elite Satire, thank you for joining us. We're good here. We're good. We love talking about we love shitting on AEW, though, unfortunately. So.
We could do that all day long. Isn't that why we have a show?
Yeah. And
we kid. No, we talk about all elite wrestling. We also talk about old wrestling. And of course we talk about the new WWE stuff if that is even possible at this point.
but these days Hunter doesn't seem like his career. He knows his career is over. So I'm like, okay, I'm the booker now, and I get excited when I see my guys win their championships and have their moments.
There definitely has been a switch in him.
Yeah,
from wrestler to promoter to.
Yeah,
he doesn't own it.
No, he's just a booker.
They have a board. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a booker. He's also an employee now. He's not really an owner, or he has stock in the company, I'm sure, but.
And he's worth a couple of million.
Yeah, he's worth
like a couple $100 million, I think.
Yeah, he's worth decent amount of money, and I don't tell how much he's worth, but he's he has some money. He has a lot of money. So yeah, he's now just the chief content officer or booker. I just call him the booker. It's easier for me to say, oh, Hunter's the chief content officer. Why do they keep changing the name?
Just say booker.
It's a corporate name.
Content and officer.
It's the chief content officer. So
it's very hard to say. Just say Booker. CCO. Booker's easy. It's one syllable.
Yeah,
Booker.
I know, but it's a corporate name. All these people have to have corporate names now, like CEO, CFO, content officer. So I think it may be to make Hunter feel better. Is like, oh yeah, I'm the chief content officer.
Better about himself. He's literally like the top guy almost.
Yeah, he is the booker.
Although he can't book himself because he literally had, what did he have, a heart attack last year before?
No, he had he had a heart attack.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I ain't meeting his pimp.
Apparently, Hunter has a heart condition where all the males in his family died in their 50s. It happened to his father and his grandfather and stuff. So he was going down that same path, and so luckily he has money, of course, so he had all these tests done and stuff, and they figured it out. It's like, you need to have surgery now because you're almost dead, basically. So they had to run him to the hospital. He had surgery. Eventually, he had a pacemaker put in. The first one didn't work, so he had to go back under the knife and put a new one in, and now that one worked, and and that's why he's still with us, because he'd probably be dead if he didn't have the resources that he does.
He probably would have been deleted, yeah.
Yeah. because you talked about it last week on my show when your son, you had a hard time getting his proper medication because your insurance wouldn't cover certain medications and stuff. So yeah,
which is beyond stupid.
mm-hmm.
If I can use that word on YouTube, it's
Yeah,
beyond stupid at this point. And yes, I would have to be over over $1 million to literally afford or at least find that medication that they were going to give him. But luckily, we have a pretty good pharmacy that they actually care about people.
Yeah.
But again, it's just ridiculous that we have to go through these, issues.
Yeah.
Being poor people ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's why again I hate to get political on this show, but yeah, I mean, Hunter has all these resources, and they ran just these battery of tests. I mean, I think he may have gone to the Mayo Clinic, which is like the rich people clinic. Only rich people go there.
Of course.
And they ran these battery of tests, and his doctor back in Connecticut, like, yeah, dude, you're dying. Like, go to the hospital now. Don't wait. Like, pack a bag, go. And it's like, and they were like, okay, and they went, and then his heart was barely beating. It's like, how are you still awake? It's like, no, I feel fine. So he had the surgery. They put a pacemaker in, and
right, and he wasn't really a partier. This was more like
no,
just generic or
it's genetic. Yeah,
genetic. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's sad to see. Even if I don't like a wrestler, I don't like Triple H very much. But even if I don't like one, I don't want to see that happen to someone.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Jake the Snake, where he needed a surgery, but he couldn't get it because he didn't have any money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these guys when they get older because they don't have pensions. They didn't have pensions. They couldn't use pensions. So a lot of these guys just go broke.
Yeah, and and I've seen plenty of older wrestlers have to go to GoFundMe to pay for their surgeries.
Snake got his money for his surgery.
Yeah, Jake the Snake got his money for his surgery there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan needed like a shoulder surgery or something. So he went to GoFundMe, and the fans, of course, wrestling fans are absolutely like amazing. Really,
they are amazing people.
They've helped fund surgeries for plenty of these like older vet guys who they grew up with, and yeah, I mean, I might have thrown a few bucks to some of these guys, I don't remember who exactly because that's still, I mean, yeah, it's just sad that these guys have to go to GoFundMe to pay for their surgeries. Luckily, Jake Roberts works for AEW, so
yeah, now he does. I saw something. I was watching
Mm-hmm.
wrestling bloopers, and Jake said something completely wrong. Like, as long as I'm here, you're not going to be in him or something. It was like, Jake.
was it that Heroes of Wrestling show that he did in the late 90s, or do you know about that one?
No, this was like it's like 25 minutes of mishaps from wrestling.
No, the bloopers.
And, but it was like, Jake, I don't think that's what he meant.
He might have been drunk or high or a combination there, because Jake's always had issues with drugs and alcohol.
No, this was AEW though. This is on AEW.
Oh, this is recent. Oh, yeah. I thought this was like 30 years ago or something.
Oh,
well,
no.
He's off the sauce and stuff now, which I'm glad. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, he probably didn't mean to say it like that. I mean, he's older, and he's still a better promo than most of those guys in AEW.
The funniest one, and I don't know if Kurt was listening or if he was just kind of like da-da-da, trying to think of what I'm going to say next. Because, the funniest part is now they have lines. Like, they're actors and actresses, and they have to remember exactly what they have to say. Whereas in our day, Angel, they came up with these promos off the top of their heads. And it's so funny. It's a Nitro, and it's before Kurt turned to the NWO. And he's just standing there, and Flair goes, I'm going to ride Conan all night long. And I'm like, what? And then, I mean, Kurt, he's like standing right there, and he's not doing anything. I'd be like, what? You're going to do what to who? But I mean, I think, like I said, Kurt was so, he probably wasn't listening, and he probably was thinking of what he was going to
Yeah.
say next in his promo,
He's
that
like,
he missed it. He completely
Yeah.
missed it for Ric Flair. I'm like, I
It's
would have been like, what?
it's like, I guess he
And
was
that's
like,
a
oh,
live
so,
show. That was a live show. He would have been
Yeah.
like, I gotta go in the
Yeah,
back.
Rick.
We can do this promo later. I gotta go in the back and laugh my ass off.
He probably thought it's a Ric Flair promo. Let me not pay attention much to it.
I'm gonna ride, go down all night long.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Because
What is-
Rick always, I didn't even know if Rick knew what he was saying half the time. Because the things he would say,
That's
like, what?
yes, that's
What?
very true because he might have been on the sauce as well.
Yeah. Ric Flair is a famous alcoholic. I mean, he would drink before shows.
Yep.
So,
But that's
yeah,
just so
and-
funny. Just Kurt standing there like, do. What am I gonna say next? Just completely missed it.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite one was father and son messed it up. Kurt could not say the narcissist Lex Luger,
yeah.
and Joe kept saying something about the moment starts now. This moment starts now. The moment starts now. Something starts. I'm like, oh, Joe. Oh, dear goddess.
When Vince handed Lex Luger the narcissist gimmick, it was perfect for Lex. But the
It should
problem
have
is
stayed that way. Yes.
nobody could nobody could pronounce it except for Vince.
Well,
for whatever
I think
reason.
the problem is Lex Luger. If you've ever seen the interview, you can go on my channel. It's Kurt Hennig was the best Change My Mind podcast. That'll be in the description field.
Yeah, links.
I
Definitely
do
down
share that when we talk about WrestleMania 9 with him and Luger. I share that interview, and then I also share an interview with Lex Luger, and he's like, yeah, he was all caffeinated up and he completely forgot the match. And I'm like, oh, please forgive Kurt. He didn't mean it. It's an accident. I said, I how many times have I forgotten what I was going to say? And it's like you study for a test all night, and then you're like, oh no, I forgot everything
blank.
I just learned. It's like that, but I think it's because he was all caffeinated up that he's like the Lexorcist, the narcissist Lex Luger. I'm so excited, I'm gonna do it right now. And I do share that interview.
Bobby the Brain couldn't pronounce narcissist either. He said narcissist like over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and then Kurt would be like Narcissi.
Narciss.
I love Kurt Hennig. We love you.
Vince. I mean, I understood as I was a kid is like narcissist. What does that word mean? And then I kind of had to go to the dictionary because this is back in the 90s. We didn't have computers or phones or anything like that. So I had like, here it is. It's arrogant, not condescending, but arrogant and
full of yourself, being in love with yourself.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely Lex Luger. So there you go. So I see
and instead of Lex Express, which was a miserable failure, they should have kept Lex Luger as a narcissist because he was better.
Yeah, Vince thought he would be Hogan 2.0 for some reason. That's why he switched.
That would have been either Brett or Kurt, but not Lex Luger.
Excuse me. Bad Cookie says, "Who is Kurt Hennig?"
I will get you. It's Kurt Hennig. 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 Don't make me come through this camera, Bad Cookies. I will come through this camera.
Yeah, I mean it's like why turn Kurt? I mean why turn Lex? It's like let's
and then turn Kurt back to being a heel.
I was like, okay, you had Bret Hart already. He was already WWF champion before that. He's your guy. Instead, he's like he looks at Lex's body. Is like, oh no, pal, we got to push Lex.
But I mean, even if you have all that crap in there, you still have the fact that Kurt and Bret were both second generation. Now you have two great wrestlers, though Kurt was better because he was perfect. Okay, anyway, but he could have been that like Midwestern boy, all-American Midwestern boy because he was from Minnesota. He could have been that champion that everyone looks up to because he was from the Midwest. He was from Minnesota, and kind of like Bob Backlund, although I think Kurt was cooler than Bob Backlund. No offense.
I'm surprised Bob Backlund got over in the New York territory.
Well,
he
that's
was champion
because
for like 6 years.
Yeah, that was an accident, actually. I'm not sure exactly what Vince Sr. was thinking when it came to that, but yeah, I know he got over in the AWA as well. And that was also like a oops.
It was like Bob Backlund. I watched the old tapes. I'm like, how does this guy get over in the New York territory? Superstar Billy Graham and Bruno hanging around. It's like how Pedro Morales was champion.
Pedro
at one
Morales,
point. These big personalities. Like, how does this guy get over in New York territory, be champion for 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, Bruno was so over. I was watching old. It's from 2000 and something. I can't remember, but it was a interview. I think it was 2000. An interview with Larry Sabisco. Remember when Larry Sabisco turned on Bruno?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so he was in. Oh my gosh! You talk about heat, man.
He made the biggest heel in the territory. Yep.
Oh my god! They like knocked out his windows. They slashed his tires. They tried to beat that dude up, and the one referee's like, "Please, just go. Don't even stop. Just go. Just go, and don't even look back."
I would have been like, if I was there, it's like, look, Larry, put your bags, put them next to the car, next to the door or something.
And then run! And feet don't fail me now.
As soon as you turn on Bruno, just fuck off and drive to the next round.
Oh my god. First of all, bad cookies. Kurt Angle sucks. Every time he would come out, I go, you suck. Kurt Hennig is the greatest wrestler to ever live, baby. We love you, Kurt. Okay.
Yeah, and Bruno was so old. It's like, how did Vince Sr. choose Bob Backlund? I don't know.
I think it was just to maybe get into those, the Midwestern boys and, those, wrestlers that came from the Midwest.
Because the belt transferred from Superstar Billy Graham to somebody else, to Bob Backlund. Because in those days, there were no. I don't think Superstar Billy Graham wanted to put over Bob Backlund. So he already had a problem.
Not at the time, no.
So it was like, oh yeah, here you beat him, and then we'll switch the belt over to Bob. And there was, I think, Superstar Billy Graham told the story. I saw an interview where he's like, "Oh, I had a cage match with Bruno, and I told Bruno, you know what? Why don't you beat me for the belt? That way, Bob doesn't ruin the territory by becoming champion." And Bruno considered it as like, no, I'm gonna do what Vince Sr. said. He's the boss. I'm gonna do what he says. It's like, okay. But Bruno considered it, But Bruno was always, he's always traditional. He wasn't going to betray, Vince Sr. I mean, even though Vince Sr. screwed him around earlier in his career, but
I'm watching this interview going, what? Why'd you just do what Jesse did? Hide in the back of an ambulance. They would never think of that. They would never think you're in there. Larry Sabisco, and I hated that dude. I hated Larry Sabisco, and that was the point. But
he did his job as a heel because
he's kind of growing on me.
At one point, before that, he was Bruno's protege for years. Yep. He would come out, he was his protege, and then he's like a son, and then all of a sudden he turns on him. And it led to that big Shea Stadium match in early 80s. They main evented it. And it sold out Shea Stadium in New York. I mean, that's how hot that feud was. And Bruno won, of course, and everybody threw babies and
in the air.
Even the early 80s, everybody loved Bruno in New York.
Yep.
And by the mid,
go ahead.
Yeah, by the mid 80s, you had Vince Jr. McMahon, everybody would know him as today, basically forcing Bruno out of retirement because I'll use your son David, but you have to be his tag team and work with him and wrestle every once in a while. So
boy, what they did to that poor boy, I mean, they ruined him, and Bruno knew it too. Yeah.
And Bruno is like, my son wants to wrestle. Okay, I'll come out of retirement and do some stuff, but he didn't want to wrestle.
They ruined that boy, and I feel so bad for that boy. It's kind of like what they did with Brandon Lee after Bruce Lee. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that, and then
because Vince Jr., Vince McMahon, still saw the value in Bruno Sammartino being in the ring, but he didn't want to be in the ring. So it was like, oh, your son David wants to be in the ring. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely use him. But you have to, come tag team, or you can team with Hogan too. A few times is what happened. They put Bruno in a tag team with Hogan. They worked some tag matches, And he basically got used sporadically like a legend. It's like, oh wow, Bruno versus so and so, by 1987, and it was like, and David was basically used to get Bruno out of retirement. And then when Bruno got too old, they were both pretty much kicked out the door by Vince.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing to do to your son. It's kind of like what they did with Joe, which I don't agree with. I mean, just because he wasn't Kurt, well, of course he's not Kurt. Kurt's not there. Hello.
David was a lot smaller than his dad, and he just didn't have that personality, charisma to be in wrestling. And like, it just didn't work. I mean, I don't think it worked. And I saw David a few times, and like, he's one of the most unremarkable people I've ever seen. I mean, he's like a normal dude,
Yeah. I mean, Joe at least had some, bulk to him.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Henning, we would know him as Curtis Axel in wrestling. I mean, he hasn't been in the ring for a while, as far as I know, but thank God he didn't go to AEW. Oh my God, because he could have been killed there by now.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, Joe, don't do that. Oh gosh. Is he dead?
Yeah,
Joe, no, leave. This is not what your father would want for you.
The problem is Vince McMahon again screwed around. Joe Henning, Kurt Angle, Curtis Axel.
What?
When he debuted, his name was Michael McGillicuddy, and I'm like, what?
And that was you were saying that was pretty good-ish.
Michael McGillicuddy was the lamest name I've ever seen. At least, I mean, it was so generic at the same time. This sucked. It wasn't like Joe Smith or something, or you might as well call him Joe Henning. It would have been better than Michael McGillicuddy.
Yeah, but I mean, Vince had a thing about using your own name, whereas Eric Bischoff wanted them to use their own name. Yeah, so I mean, Kurt Hennig, when he came in, it was Kurt Hennig, and then they had to think of a name for him, and they came up with so many things. And Kurt wanted to be, like a cowboy thing because he was in the country music and stuff.
Yeah,
but I mean. Vince is like, we got enough cowboy stuff. Let's do something else. So what are you good at? And he said pretty much everything. And that's when they came up with the Mr. Perfect thing. It sounds like you're perfect at everything. Mr. Right? Perfect, right?
Oh, well, that's it. Yeah, because that's what Vince used to do back in the day. He would just talk to guys like, okay, what are you good at? Like, oh, okay, you're good at that, or are you good at this? It's like when Kurt said he's good at everything. It's like, oh, well, you're perfect, aren't you? It's like, oh, you're Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect, yeah.
And it just took off. Clicked. That's how gimmicks. Vince would create gimmicks, at least in the early days. Today was by the time today rolled around, he would just hand gimmicks out to guys like, well, you're this now, pal. Good luck.
And honestly, I don't think that Vince thought it was going to be spectacular for Kurt, but Kurt was good at everything. He was a great athlete. He played basketball, he played football, he played baseball. He even did a hockey vignette, and he was good at darts, and he was good at bowling. And I've seen the bloopers for some of those vignettes. And I'm like, oh god, it's like this. Oh god, the golfing one was like, oh, and it stops, and I'm like, oh. Disclose. Yeah. First of all, bad cookies. That's not how you spell Kurt. It's not how you spell Hennig. And yes, he did. He was bulky. He was more athletic, but he was still bulky. See him and look up Kurt Hennig in 2002 when he went to the XWF, which was something that Brian Knobbs. Kurt Angle sucked. Look up XWF, I think it's XF something. Brian Knobbs was doing it, and he was there with Buff Bagwell and stuff. I mean, he looked better than his dad.
I think Hogan may have done one or two matches in that.
Yes,
in that company.
Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah,
and then of course Buff Bagwell was there and Kurt Hennig was there.
Yeah, because according to Hogan, at least, well, I lost my confidence, brother, so I had to go there to regain my confidence before I re-signed with Vince. In other words, it was like, well, I didn't have a job, so let me do a match or two here, and then, Vince called. Okay, now I'm going to fuck off back to Vince and do the NWO again over there.
Right, and everyone really assumes that you know, Kurt was going to do another run. And I'm like, not according to most people. I mean, he was pretty much done with WWE.
Yeah,
And that's
after the
because
plane
they
ride
had
from hell
fired
thing.
him for nothing. They
The
fired
plane
him for
ride from hell
nothing.
thing. Yeah. So he was fired from the plane ride from hell thing. Scott Hall was still there. He lasted a few weeks after that. So he's the one, he didn't do anything. Apparently he was just passed out the entire flight, but
He tried to lick a stewardess.
well, I mean,
That's what the stewardess said. He tried to lick her or something.
Scott
And then
Hall
he tried to blame Kurt and say Curfy roofied him. No, Kurt wouldn't do that.
Scott Hall said, "Oh, I was
Not
passed
to a
out
guy.
most of the flight." I don't remember that. And then he said something. Yeah, he said something effective. Kurt roofied him, or so had to blame Kurt for him being passed out.
And Kurt didn't do anything. Not to him. He did it to Brock Lesnar. That's Brock's fault for being stupid and for not wearing shoes. Because Kurt had boots on, dummy.
We got to do an entire episode. I mean, that was crazy. But
I have his interview from 2002, and please listen to it. Again, everything's up, down in the description field. It's the extra bonus content that my people wanted to see once I got to 50K. So I do have over 50,000 subscribers. Thank you guys. It's just something that they wanted to see. So I did like a poll, and they that's what they wanted to see.
Okay, bad
ew,
cookies.
ew. Okay, stop that. Get out of here. So if you get a chance, please listen to that. I know the audio is kind of bad. It's from a TV show, and it was put like 11 minutes was put of it on YouTube, and that's where I got it from. So he did some kind of a TV show where he was on in 2002, and he kind of explains that, and he's you can hear the girl go, "Oh, come on. Like, you didn't even have your third beer or whatever." And he's like, "Well, that's what the internet says." He was just joking around, of course, because but listen to his voice when he says, "Well, that's what the internet says." He's like, "Oh, the internet. You're going to believe that, or you're going to believe, Mr. Perfect."
It's 2002 and the internet was just in its infancy, but even then they were like there were forums and there was stuff like that. So if people don't know the early days of the internet, it was forums. We didn't have Twitter or Facebook, not even MySpace.
And that's where all the rumors got started that apparently he was drunk and Brock was drunk and they were near I've had 3 wrestlers now confirm that they were nowhere near that stupid exit door. 3. And they're all credible. So
I mean, the plane ride from hell has turned into infamy in wrestling. Hell, there's even old Dark Side of the Ring episode on it.
Right, and no offense, well, yes, offense to Ric Flair, he did something worse than Kurt and Brock.
Yeah, he's still there,
and he's still with a wrestling company. Yeah. He's not in jail. No. Okay,
he forced himself on a woman, let's say, while naked. What Ric Flair used to do is he used to run around in his robe and then flash the wrestlers.
Like, and that used to be funny. Ha ha ha.
That was funny, yeah.
Except for there are some women who just don't want to see that stuff.
Yeah, and then
contrary to popular belief, there are some people that don't want to see that Ric Flair. Yeah. Considering you're old and ugly and you have a big nose.
And Ric Flair, for some reason, had a thing for flashing people. And actually, even before that, he would just flash random people his junk for no reason.
Yeah, I heard that he would run around the hotels naked.
Yeah.
I'd be like, nope, I'm not going outside. Nope. Back in around the halls of the drunk and naked.
In his prime in like the 80s and stuff, when he was NWA's champion, and he would run around naked.
I'm not going out there.
I'm like, what the fuck? That's the wrestlers, that's not, they're
that's
crazy.
That's what the wrestlers would say. I know. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm not going out there. I'm not going out there. So, I don't want to see Ric Flair's junk. I think I'd rather
according to some of them,
I'd rather self-delete myself.
According to a lot of the wrestlers, Ric Flair was well endowed, apparently. I'd never seen it, so I'm just quoting what the wrestlers said. So
I'd rather see Kurt naked. I'll see Kurt Hennig naked.
Ric Flair was apparently well endowed. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, showing
Please
it
don't
off
let my man watch this.
Random people for no reason, like, oh yeah, here, what do you think? He's like, oh, today he would have been, arrested and be called a deviant and stuff, But
He'd
back in
have
the 80s,
to. Wouldn't he have to sign up as a sex offender too?
probably, yeah, because if there are kids around. I
He stole
heard
towels,
Ric
as
Flair
in
stole
like towels from the
towels.
hotel.
How sinister.
Oh, from who? Who said this?
I don't know. But
Who
Ric
said this?
Flair is, I mean, somehow he, not only did he do that to that woman, because that
Yeah.
woman got interviewed for the Dark Side of the Ring show,
I mean, her
he
husband,
survived.
even her husband was saying, don't say anything because he's well known. That doesn't mean anything. What happened to Me Too? Just because
Yeah,
Ric Flair has money?
that was
Well,
like
I mean,
20
look at what
years
happened
before
with
Me
Joe
Too.
Biden, so I shouldn't be
That
too.
was 20 years before Me Too. In those days, it was like, yeah, don't tell anybody. He's well
Yeah,
known
don't
or
tell
something.
anybody. He's a well known guy and he's rich.
Eh.
I forgot that
So
rich people get away with everything.
yeah,
And
not
us
only did
poors
he
get away with
survive,
nothing.
it's 2002, so he survived another 15 years in WWE until recently when he wasn't something he did something where he got
He
fired,
was
and
he was 3 sheets to the wind. Oh wait, no, you mean WWE.
yeah, when he got fired from WWE, he did something, and then he ended up with AEW. Even though Tony Khan, would talk about Vince and all the messed up stuff that he did and with
Yeah, and he
women,
lets
but
Ric Flair get drunk in
yeah,
a pizza place and start calling the guy a dipshit.
yeah, and he still hasn't fired him. He's still
He
not
still
only
hasn't fired him.
not only he's still employed, but he also they're paying for the Woo Energy sponsorship. That Ric Flair
Wings.
energy drink. That Ric Flair energy drink. He's still paying the company. He's still paying Ric Flair basically
And
to have his
honestly, when I was listening to that about Jim Cornette, they were saying how people were buying those energy drinks just to get like a picture with Ric Flair, and then they were
Mhm.
immediately just getting a refund. I
Yeah.
I I, I kid you not.
No,
I swear on my mother's
it's
grave.
awful.
Although
It
she's
must be
not dead
awful.
yet.
She must those drinks are just awful.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
have
I've
all
heard
kinds of
people.
like mushrooms and stuff in
Yeah,
it, and it's like, ew, why would you even want to put that in your body?
yeah, it's like, oh, give Ric Flair, oh, take a picture with Rick, buy this, okay. It's like, oh, okay, oh, let me give
Right,
him
and they
money
did
back.
say they actually Jim Cornette and Brian Last
Hmm.
actually read the ingredients out. They're
Hmm.
like, why would you put this crap in your body? And they're like, I
I,
don't know, but
Ri-
they were saying how the people were literally buying this 24 pack, and it's like what $50 for a 24 pack. Who's gonna pay that kind of money when you could literally just go and get like energy drinks for like $10
yeah,
at the grocery
I
store?
would do it. It's just
Hey, don't do
ridiculous.
that. That's
And
contagious.
yeah, and then Tony is paying Ric Flair for a salary to, be an AEW wrestler or personality. I don't know. And then he's paying him to do the for the Woo Energy drink.
Oh,
It's like what Tony is doing, he's hiring his favorite wrestlers from the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s and just collecting them.
but
Like,
Ric Flair
this
was
is,
not really a wrestler. He was more of a I'm out for myself kind of wrestler.
oh, yeah.
I never liked Ric Flair. I never liked Ric Flair, and I know now why.
Yeah,
Because
when
he was
Rick,
always out for himself. It's always me first. So if it benefits me, then it's going to happen. But if it
mhm.
don't benefit me, guess what, guys? I don't care. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, he was when he was booking WCW, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, well, I mean, he always, he was the champion, of course, when he booked. Is like, it's like, oh, well,
We
I
got about
mean,
10 minutes. Should we get to the Clash of the Castle?
yeah, we probably should because if I keep,
I keep rambling on about this and about that. I'm sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we do
So
have to
you
get
tell
to
me the
that.
matches and I'll give you my opinion. Mm-hmm.
Well, so far, the Clash of the Castles next Saturday at 2
Yeah.
o'clock Eastern from
Okay.
Scotland. So that's Drew McIntyre's home country, which I'm assuming he'll go on last, even though Cody is on the card. But, just for this once, it probably makes sense.
Now I
But
have a question. Do they do a Raw pay-per-view and then a SmackDown pay-per-view, or is it kind of all combined?
no, it's all combined these days.
Okay, because I was wondering about that, because it just seems like sometimes Cody's not on the card, and that kind of seems like a, you know. He is the champion. I mean, he's SmackDown champion. And then, of course, you have is Priest still Raw champion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as of now, at least. All right. So there's only 5 matches that have been announced so far. I don't think they'll announce any more, even though it's another week of Raw and SmackDown left. So
Okay.
maybe they'll announce something, in those 2 shows. But yeah, they're doing a triple threat tag team match for the women's tag title. Bianca and Jade and Alba Fire, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. So it's basically a 3-team match for the tag title.
I
So
say Jade and who's the other one?
Bianca,
I say they retain.
yeah, they have to.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, I mean, Jim compared them to like the Road Warriors if they were women.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
good
don't know about
comparison.
that, but I mean,
It's kind of a good comparison because they're like compared to other women on the roster, they're pretty big. So like
okay,
they're
fair
huge.
enough,
So
fair enough.
I can see that. I can see the comparison. So yeah, I
Okay.
agree. So the next match listed here is a rematch: Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles from the Backlash France show. It's an I Quit match though for the championship.
I say Cody retains. I just don't think that they're
Oh,
going to
he
give it
has
to AJ
to.
Styles. Yeah.
No,
I mean, I think
AJ's
he's a
there
little past his
to.
prime. And
AJ's
that
there.
stems from the whole thing
Mhm.
where he turned on Cody at the, the so-called fake
Yeah.
retirement
When
thing.
they did the whole fake, we talked about that last week. Yeah, they did. AJ came out and he was going, even though then he never mentioned the word retirement, but everybody kind of implied it and
Assumed,
understood it.
yeah.
So Cody was celebrating with him and like thank you and everything, and boom, and there you go.
Boom, yeah. And
That
you had
leads
said
to
it was like a redone of Mark Henry when
when
he
Mark Henry did it to
was
John
trying to
Cena
step aside. Yeah. And
when he was
unfortunately, or fortunately.
it's very similar that Cena, came out and started celebrating with Mark, and then Mark kind of did something, and killed him, and that led to a match between those two. Same thing happened here, except like I said last week, nobody. That's 10 years ago. Most people who watched it are not watching today, so it's new for them. Even though
Mhm.
people on the internet were complaining about, it's the exact same segment from 10 years ago. It's like, yeah, who was watching 10 years ago? Very few
Yeah,
people
come see,
that
come
watch
saw.
today. So yeah, it's an I Quit match, no disqualification, world title match. Again, I'm fine. Usually I like no disqualification, but it's their second match. They already had a great match
Lady
in
looking.
Backlash. So I was like, okay, no disqualification, I quit. Okay, Cody wins. Can we
The only
kind of
I
move
Quit
on from
match I
this?
remember from WWE was the Rock and Mankind one. And then of
Yeah,
course they had Mick Foley's recording of I quit. I quit. You remember that?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely do. That was the match where Rocky just destroyed Mick Foley with a chair like a million times in his head.
And he was
And
bleeding too, I think. Oop,
yeah, and the
sorry.
I
I mean, he
quit.
was red liquid was coming out.
Yeah, the I quit thing, it's like it wasn't even Mick saying it. It was like on a recording. Him and
Yeah, it
Rock
was
won
from
the
like Sunday Night
championship.
Heat, I think, and he goes,
Yeah,
"There's one thing I won't be saying. It's I quit. I quit." And then they repeated that
yeah.
and made it sound like Mick Foley was saying it, but he wasn't.
And that's how Mick dropped the belt to Rocky, and that led to the match with Austin at Mania. But they needed the belt off Mick somehow. So there you go. All right. So the next match on the card is Sami Zayn defending his Intercontinental title against Chad Gable with Alpha Academy at ringside. All those people there.
I say he retains because I don't think they're. This is just my opinion, but I don't think Chad Gable is going to be hoisted up because again, they would have to hoist up Zayn, unless they want to
hmm
get Zayn and kind of like Gunther into the heavyweight mix. Are they ready to do that? I don't really think so.
Yeah, I mean, this is now Chad Gable's second or third match for Intercontinental. Actually, no, it's more because he faced Gunther a couple times. So one, two, this is like his fourth match in the last 6 months for the title. So if they're gonna push him and take him seriously, he needs a win at some point. So unless they protect Sammy and just have Alpha Academy beat him up or something, but he needs a win, I think. So
Yeah, I give it up to you. So I mean, I say he retains, but what do you say?
Uh, I, I I tend to I think they're gonna make the switch because they unless they're gonna
Okay.
just because Triple H is like ever since he took over, as like Chad Gable's become more serious. He's not like that clownish, like shoosh. When he used to that part of his gimmick, and he was more clownish when Vince was there. So it's like, okay, so they're taking him a little more seriously. He's a heel, while the rest of his group, he's abusing the rest of his group now, like a dictator would, and they're gonna turn on him eventually. Otis is already teasing turning on him, so they're doing that whole story with Chad winning Intercontinental. That they might do that story more, and with him and Otis eventually having matches. If with
Okay.
the Intercontinental, that could mean more, I think. But I think they'll make the switch, but that's one where I'm not 100% sure, so I can't, say yes, they'll
So we'll
definitely
leave
make the
that up in
switch.
the air.
Yeah, for Sunday, next Saturday. I mean, the next match listed is Bailey defending her women's championship against Piper Niven with Chelsea Green.
Bailey retains because I don't know
Yeah,
this Piper person.
yeah, she's a more obese woman. She's in a tag team with Chelsea Green. So yeah,
Well,
so
see, for some reason, the big ladies, apparently there was a Miss Alabama or something, and someone was
hmm
saying she could eat the whole Alabama. You know what I mean?
yeah, it
Um,
couldn't. When she won it, it was like, oh, okay, this is one of those
so they
socially
could be going
correct
in that
things.
direction where the big women are now cherished.
Uh,
I don't know.
Nia Jax won the Queen of the Ring last month, so
Yeah.
yeah, But I don't think they'll switch the titles to Piper. But yeah, she'll at least she's in there, and having that match, and she'll lose to Bailey, but at least she had like because Piper Niven is from the UK, Scotland area, so putting
Okay.
her on the card probably at least is something for the audience locally.
Do you
So
think maybe they could do like a Sami Zayn kind of thing where they bring her family and then like, I mean, not embarrass her, but like bring her family and then she just kind of loses, or maybe she could win.
it could be. It could. I wouldn't be surprised her family would be there, but will they acknowledge it? And if they do, that could lead to some sort of story later, like what happened with Sammy and then also Chad Gable, because his first Intercontinental title match against Gunther, he lost, and his daughter was. They showed his daughter crying on camera. So,
Mm.
and I don't think she's like a 6 or 7 year old girl. So I don't think she's acting. So it was like a legitimate thing there. So yeah, so they could be doing something like that with Piper. So, but I think Bailey will retain too because there's no reason to do a switch right now.
And that's
And
kind of hard for your kids because I've heard on many a dark ring or like a bio where they literally will say, "Well, you have to kind of keep kayfabe with even with your own kids."
yeah,
Because it's something that the kids will just go to school and say, well, I mean, that's all just fake. So you kind of
yeah,
had to keep kayfabe with your own kids.
yeah. So so that yeah, especially in the territory days, it's kind of tough. Even today, though, it's like I don't think the Chad Gable told his daughter he's gonna lose. So they wanted to get like a legitimate reaction out of his kids. And the daughter definitely gave him one. The son was more like, he didn't really care, but she definitely cared.
Yeah.
All right, so the main event, or I'm assuming what's the main event, is Damian Priest defending his world title against Drew McIntyre.
I say Drew.
Yeah, I think
I
they're
mean,
gonna
it
have.
is his hometown or his
hmm
home country. Um, I just, I mean, unless they're going to like deny him that gold. I
Yeah,
mean, won't his family be there?
I assume so. They were there
Okay.
because the last time Clash of the Castle happened was also in England, because that's why it's called the Clash of the Castle. They're referencing Great Britain and their castles and stuff. But it was
Hmm.
2022, and he main evented against Roman Reigns for the for the Universal Belt, whatever it was called then. And everybody assumed Drew would win, and I'm like, he's not going to win.
Hmm.
Roman's having a historic title run. Why would they? And I know, but Drew is home country, whatever. He gets beat. Solo Sokoa debuts that match and beats up Drew after the match, and the fans nearly like had a riot that night. They couldn't believe that Drew didn't win. I'm like, of course he didn't win. Roman's having historic title run, and they're not going to drop it to Drew at a random pay-per-view in England, So
I don't know why, but Roman Reigns is trending. Maybe he might screw Drew out of the title.
If anybody were to screw Drew, it'd be CM Punk, because they're still doing that story between Punk and McIntyre. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these fans are looking for CM Punk again, because he's already done it to him 3 times.
Right. Well, I mean, he's just trending on X, so maybe people think he's going to also come into it, since there is like that, Clash of the Castle, and they're in Scotland and thing. But they could be bringing Roman Reigns back, maybe to congratulate Drew when he wins.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Roman would fly out to London
sitting at home, right?
Do that. Yeah.
Okay.
And there a lot of people were like, a lot of fans were like, oh hey, 60 days since Roman appeared on television. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to see him at least until SummerSlam, probably. Maybe even after that.
Okay. Well,
because he's taking a long break, a long one, because it's like,
right. Well, there's all kinds of rumors that get started. I was just, like I said, I was just, looking at the X trending thing, and Roman Reigns is there. So
yeah, I think that Drew will get the belt, and then they'll do some sort of deal where
maybe with CM Punk, where they kind of switch it back and forth.
Yeah, him and Punk will go, probably depending when Punk is ready, because it seems like he's ready now, but maybe he can go at Money in the Bank, for the world title, and he'll win it, or something will happen where because Gunther has a title shot at SummerSlam, so that's guaranteed. Right. So no matter who the champion is, so it could be Punk and Gunther, and Punk puts him over, or it could be a triple threat if it's a controversial finish. You have McIntyre, Gunther, and Punk. Gunther wins the title somehow that way, because I think he'll win the title, or he'll win it in Germany, because we talked on August 31st, my birthday. There's a German show. What's it called? What's that show called? It's in Germany though. It's in Berlin. Why am I forgetting the name of that pay-per-view? Oh, Clash in Berlin or something, some type of deal like that. Why am I forgetting the name of that pay-per-view?
I do not know.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm glad they go over to other countries, but it's kind of like, I mean, do we have wrestling fans in Europe anymore?
Apparently they draw big houses in Europe. Look at AEW. Right. They drew like 80,000 at Wembley, or whatever it was. It wasn't like 70,000. Still an impressive number for AEW, but
all right, then, hands down to the
So the Europe is still, wrestling's still over in Europe. It's just that it isn't like, that's why it's always been. If you go back from WWF and WCW in the early 90s, it's like, we need to draw money. What do we do? Oh yeah, let's just go to Europe. Let's do a European tour. We'll draw money then, and they did usually.
Yeah. All right. So, any final thoughts about Clash of the Castle?
It's next Saturday, and hopefully it'll be good, because we got to review it probably that night, or if not next week, the week after. So I hope it's going to be good. And
how about some really quick? How about some shameless puns or puns?
Shameless plugs.
Plugs. Thank you. Not puns.
It's like, follow.
No pun intended.
Follow us on Twitter. I am Angel J Rivera 08. Kurt's podcast. Something. I'm sorry.
It's 0420. That's me on X. My other show is called Kurt Hennig Was the Best Changed My Mind podcast. I also have another show called Black Magic Talk podcast. You can look those both up on YouTube and Rumble, and follow me on Rumble, and follow me on, or subscribe on YouTube. And this week on Black Magic Talk, we're going to talk, basically we're going to look up and talk about our deities, why we have them, why we use them, that kind of thing. So check that out. Everything will be in the description. British Bulldog was the last British. I don't know about that. There was also not Davy Boy Smith.
That's the
Dynamite,
British
Dynamite,
Bulldog.
Dynamite.
Yeah, Dynamite Kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
yeah.
also, guys, we have merch.
Oh yes.
Get them now while you can. Awesome shirts. We have awesome stuff with our Pro Wrestling Talk logo, which is up here in the corner here. That's our logo. If you
Links
want
in
to
the
check us
chat.
out and you want to get a shirt, get them now while they're hot. They're hot cakes.
Yeah, they literally
we
just
got
came out
t-shirts.
yesterday.
Right, and we got t-shirts, we got all kinds of really cool stuff. So shop, and as you can
There's
see,
that.
here's Angel in the afternoon. Shop.
Yeah, that.
So like right where his mouse is our logo. You can
Yeah,
get really
that.
cool shirts, and there's a sticker. Great stuff coming, guys. So get them while you can. They're good gift ideas for Christmas and for or whatever religion you are, even if you're an atheist. Still good gift giving here for Angel.
Yeah, I think
and then
so.
of course we have like the tank tops and stuff.
Yeah.
Indy showed us all this great stuff, so get them while they're hot because they're going like hotcakes, guys.
Yeah, it was literally yesterday when this stuff went live, and I was like, oh, okay, great. You know, I mean, it's like the laptop stickers. You see my handsome face there, and our logo for Wrestling Talk here. So yeah, check this all out. The links in the chat. If you're so inclined, please purchase them. You know, it'll help out the show and help out our network a lot. So yeah.
And
So,
I'm thinking
anything
about getting
else?
my son one just so he can go to school and be like, "What's that? Oh, my mom's on a podcast."
Oh,
So
that's a
there you
good
go.
idea.
He'll be in second grade this
Yeah.
year, so all his
Oh,
friends will
nice.
be like, "Oh, I want one," you know. So
Yeah,
get them while they're hot,
for sure.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I host Angel in the Afternoon every Friday, 7 o'clock
Check it
Eastern. Pro
out.
Wrestling
Check it
Talk, this show
out.
every Friday, every Saturday at 8. And tomorrow evening, afternoon, I'm doing Angel in the Afternoon Sunday edition with my guest. His name is Joe Magaha. We're going to talk politics, and he's the host of Spanish podcast called I'm gonna say it in English though. Two Cats in the Land of Dogs. He does some English speaking episodes. We're gonna talk politics. We're
We're gonna have subtitles.
Yeah, no, because we're gonna talk in English.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna talk in Spanish.
Saying, no,
I was gonna say subs, please.
No, we're gonna. No, we're gonna talk in English, but I'm just saying he hosts a Spanish speaking podcast for the most part. So yeah, we're gonna talk politics and stuff. It only happened for an hour, so yeah, 60 minutes, just real quick.
And check it out, guys. Check it out. Tell all your friends. Tell everybody you know. Check it out tomorrow. What time?
Tomorrow
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for everybody else who's not Eastern,
make sure
you know.
Make sure he says podcast, not OnlyFans. I mean, I don't think I would confuse the two, but it's bad cookie day.
Monday night is when we usually record Black Magic Talk. Excuse me. That will probably be up. Sorry, it'll probably be uploaded on Tuesday afternoon because I work in the afternoon, and then I can kind of do that while I'm working on computers and stuff. So check that out. Look for that. We're going over our deities. Matt Collins is my co-host, and we're gonna talk about our deities, why they're there, a little bit of history about them, and hopefully you'll tune in.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of Pro Wrestling Talk. Make sure you join us every Saturday at 8. And see you guys next Saturday. So have a nice weekend. See you tomorrow for Angel in the Afternoon on this very channel that you're watching right now.
And remember, everyone, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody.